right, welcome to another episode of the Bulldog Bark. I am yours truly, the Guru. With me today, we are missing one of our crew. BFC will be out today, but I got with me today Michael D. Rosa and Kyle, the Butler fan. He was Kyle, the Andre Screen fan for a second. I don't know if it still is. I think it went back to Butler fan, but
It's
I
back to the
I
Butler
can't
fan.
blame you for the name change.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
no, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be recapping the Arizona tip-off and maybe give a quick preview of Eastern Illinois come up here. But just to get you all up to speed, Butler is coming off a very exciting weekend, feast week. They won the Arizona tip-off, which included wins over Northwestern 71-69, which the end of that game, I'm sure we will discuss. And then a huge win. I mean, the Northwestern win was big, but a huge win over top 25 Mississippi State, 87-77. Michael, I'll kick to you first. Give me your thoughts about this Feast Week weekend.
Yeah, very obviously very successful. Team, it looks night and day from the first five halves of basketball because the first five halves this team started the season with, they didn't look good at all. And now they look very solid. This team, broadly speaking, can't miss from three. They've been lights out. Jamil Telford looks so much better than advertised, and we all thought he was amazing. He looks excellent. You got Pierre Brooks going, at least in the second game, and he's gonna have his games where obviously he doesn't play amazing like in the first Northwestern game, but he played really well in that second game. Yeah, good minutes off the bench from Landon Moore. Even Andre Screen has showed back up. He might just be one of those Andres. This is my Andre Screen theory. I'm willing to get into this now, and I'll let you guys think about it and obviously talk about the game first. But is Andre Screen just better off the bench? Like I just think he's just one of those guys that's just better off the bench. I don't know how else to explain it, but a very successful week, and that was fun.
I 100% agree with you. And I just talked about that on the Bees Barroom podcast that I think Andre Screen is just better off the bench. He's averaging 7 and 7 now. I mean, just huge for the dogs. Kyle, how about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a great weekend. I would put out there that the fact that real quick, I mean, again, we'll get into each game specifically, I'm sure, but when we talk about the overall weekend, the fact that we can win games when Pierre Brooks scores 2 points against a team that I don't think anybody's saying that Northwestern is gonna light the world on fire this year in the Big Ten, but a legitimate high major team that is not terrible, and you win the game when you're leading, or he's not our leading scorer right now, but our returning leading scorer and a guy who's averaging 15 plus a game scores 2 points, and you win that game. That, I mean, if you tell me that Pierre Brooks scores 2 points in any game, like even against a low major, I'm like, ooh. So, the fact that we win that game with Pierre only putting in 2 points is, a really good sign. And um, overall, I mean, you just can't help but feel like Michael was absolutely right. I don't know what Thad said at halftime of the Western Michigan game, but who knows? Maybe we come back to like halftime of Western Michigan as like the point where the Dogs just completely flipped this season in the third game, and we've just looked like a different team since that second half of Western Michigan. And if you told me this is how, if you show me that Mississippi State game like the day after we lost to Austin Peay, I would just be like, who is this team? So, awesome.
Yeah, and let's dive into each of these games individually now. So yeah, the Northwestern game, like I said, Butler defeated Northwestern 71-69. Jamil Telfort was your leading scorer with 23 points. Just a great game by him. Andre Screen, like we alluded to a little bit, 15 points, 9 rebounds. He has been so close to double doubles in like every game for the past 4 games. He keeps getting 9 rebounds instead of 10. But then Finley also added 12, a couple clutch threes down the stretch. McCaffrey keeps shooting the ball well, 10 points. Michael, what were your kind of thoughts or main takeaways specifically on that game?
Which game? Sorry, I zoned out for a hot second.
How dare
Northwestern.
you? Northwestern.
Northwestern. The Northwestern game was, I mean, I thought Butler kind of controlled the game the entire time. We're definitely going to talk about the call at the end, but I thought Butler was the better team in this game. You got good minutes from, I mean, Jamil Telford's just awesome. And I thought the defense in this game was particularly really good because Northwestern, they want to get a lot of looks, like a lot of weird post-up looks with either
Martin.
Martinelli, Barnheiser, who actually played really well, but I don't even think it was Telford on Martinelli, which would have been my guess. It was like Pierre Brooks played well on him. He did get into foul trouble, which was part of the reason he only scored 2 points, but I thought he played well defensively. He was just not willing to get bodied. McCaffrey definitely had some looks on him too. That you got Martinelli off his game. And when you got him off, Barnheiser did a lot, and Barnheiser's an excellent player. He's going to make it work. But when those two guys aren't going for them, it kind of changes everything. And you weren't letting Leach blow by you inside, and they can't really shoot the three ball like excellently. So you're able to pack it in. If they hit a couple threes, they hit a couple threes. That was going to happen, but they didn't. And I thought the defense in that game in particular, I don't know if I want to go this far, but my thought is, as I'm talking, that might have been the best defensive performance in the Mata era. It's up there. Maybe the Boise State game last year was probably better, but like that game, they feel very similar to me. The Boise State game last year and the Northwestern game this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I'll mention before Kyle dives in here, looking at it, Nicholson down low, their big guy. I was like, oh, I looked at the stats. He's like a 48% career free throw shooter. I'm like, hack a Shack, right? Every time. Dude went 8 for 9 from the line in the game. Dude went 8 for 9 from the line. I'm like, of course. And he missed his first one, so he made 8 straight after that. His first one was the most awful looking shot I've ever seen. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be beautiful. Makes 8 straight after that. But yes, Barnheiser ended up having 24. But Martinelli only shot 3 of 15 for 7 points. Like you alluded to there, I think you basically went up against Pierre and Telford, two big bodies, and I think that those bodies held up pretty well. So, Kyle, how about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I know we've talked. It's just an interesting thought on the matchup against Northwestern. We've talked in the past about how what Andre Screen did really well last year was just beat down centers who are clearly worse than him. And weirdly enough, he did that in this game. I will tell you why. I have a very good friend who is a Northwestern fan, who is also on Twitter, as you guys might know. But he put out a stat, which is true. And the backup center for Northwestern, Hunger, was minus 15 in 9 minutes. So I just want to say that whenever he was in the game, Screen was straight up dominating that guy. And that's just a good thing to see, is that when we have a center that we don't think is as good, Andre's back to doing that. Anyway, that aside, the end of the game, I will say, obviously it was poor, or sorry, obviously there was controversy. I mean, we did foul. I think we were fouling a little early. I still think there's a little bit to be left desired with our end of game execution in that game. Obviously they hit some shots. They did everything they had to do to get back in the game, but I think that we were just making a little difficult on it at the end, which really frustrated me because, like Michael said, we controlled that basketball game. It never felt like Northwestern was the better team, and yet they had a chance to win at the end, which is something that we rectified the next day against Mississippi State. So when they almost came back, they cut it to 2. So it's good to see that we got better at that, but they made my heart skip a beat at the end of the game. But like I said, I think that game is kind of simple. We're better than Northwestern. We're a better basketball team, and I don't think there's controversy in saying that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll dive into the end of that game here in a second. But I just want to one more time just shout out Telford, which we will shout him out plenty of times in this podcast. I've decided there is a look that Telford gives. Telford's not he doesn't give a lot of emotion. He's a pretty straight-faced guy. But there is a slight change, I swear, where he basically did the SMU game as well, where he basically says, give me the ball, I'm going to take care of everything. Like, in when I see it, it's like it's basically when he goes to point forward, he basically says, give me the ball. And I've never been more confident in a person since like Kamar Baldwin, when he has the ball, that I just know something good's going to happen. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I think that Jamil has a potential to be like, obviously Kamar had 4 years with us, but I think in those late game situations, the way that he plays, there is no reason to think that Ja can't have if this season goes well, that he can have some sort of Kamar-like legacy at the end of this season. Because again, I've just never seen a guy where I remember the SMU game. He's like pulled up on who's the 7-2 guy? What's his name?
Yigatokulu?
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah. If you guys watch that replay and you look at Ja's face, it's just basically like, I'm going to drain this three on you. You have no chance of stopping me. What do you do with and you think about it? He's shooting 46% from 3. How do you stop him? Hey, you go up and get him in his face. Okay, he's 6'7", built like a truck, and he can dribble the ball. He's gonna go past you and body you up in the paint. Oh, hey, I'll sag off a little bit. Oh, you learned how to shoot now. Okay, now you're gonna shoot 46% from three. Obviously, he's not gonna do that all season,
Yeah.
but still, if he shoots even a respectable upper 30s, what do you do? How do you defend him? It's pretty insane. Age aside, I don't see how this guy is not getting NBA looks next season. I don't see how he's not a first team All Big East. I mean, he's just played so well. Let's talk about the end of that game, though. So obviously there was that controversial three. I'm going to put a little plug in here before I hand it over to you guys. Because I think, Michael, you mentioned you got some looks on TV. Obviously, I was at the game.
Yeah.
But I will also add that Finley got his head taken off at the end of the first half and I know it wasn't exactly the same thing. He didn't make the three, but there was no whistle. So I love when things get so magnified at the end of games because it's near the end of a game when there's like a million things that happen throughout the game. That was a ref show. There was like 10 fouls forever, it felt like, which is why the end of the game was so slow. But Michael, what were your thoughts kind of on that last controversial stuff at the end?
Yeah, so I love that the one angle that went viral, by the way, is like the worst possible angle. It's like, yeah, of course. And I definitely tweeted the video too because I knew it would get hits. That was the sole reason I did it. Talk to me. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they're not gonna like call the shooting foul in that case. Like it's just not how it's gonna work. And at best, for Northwestern, at best, it's a 50-50 call and it didn't go your way. Like just that's really it. But I don't know. I thought Telfort fouled first. You can see him making the movement first before Barnheiser throws up that shot. It's before he like loads up to shoot it. I don't know. Um, like great shot from him. Don't get me wrong. That is incredibly impressive that he made that, and he is like an excellent player. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. Just Butler won. Butler deserved to win that game, and whatever the controversy is, I don't care. I heard too much about it already. I got sick of it that night, so Butler won.
I'll go a little farther. It was the right call. Like I don't think it's 50-50. I think if you look at any angle that actually shows the play, I think it's very clear that that Barnheiser shooting the ball is a reaction to Telfort fouling him and Telfort fouling him is not a reaction to Barnheiser shooting the ball, which is what a shooting foul is. I'm sorry. It's the right call. It's like you said, I mean, if I would do it too if I was Barnheiser, I would try to shoot the ball. It's a great shot. He made it, everything. I've nothing against what Barnheiser did, but they made the right call. And I can understand why you'd be upset as a Northwestern fan. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, but I think they made the right call.
We're all homers. Of course, they made the right call.
Yeah.
So, it will always be that way. I would not admit it was the wrong call anyway. So it was the right call, Kyle. I agree with you. And we won the game. Doesn't matter. So Butler wins that game, which, obviously that last shot I had 5 heart attacks in the span of 3 seconds because it touched every ounce of the rim before it went out. So thank you, Rims, for being extra firm and not allowing that ball to go down because we could not have given up an easier layup and easier tip in if we wanted to. So moving on, we win that game. We go to Mississippi State, number 25 in the nation, Arizona Tip-Off Championship. The Dogs absolutely light up the court. Jamil Telfort leads the way with, I believe it was 24, I want to say. Yep. And then Brooks added in 22. Just a huge win for the Dogs. It's their first championship, MTE championship since 2019-2020 with Kamar Baldwin beating Stanford, which is a cool little stat. And then just again keeps the Dogs rolling. That's definitely that's gonna age really well. That's a neutral court win. That's a Q1 win. I mean that is I assume especially with the way the SEC is playing this season. And so huge win for the Dogs. Michael, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think one thing I definitely underestimated about this team coming into the season, and I'm fully willing to tap on this part at least partially. Obviously, I think it'll regress a little bit to the mean, but this is an excellent shooting team. Like McCaffrey at Iowa was like a 34% three-point shooter. He's 50%. Telfort, 32% was his career best last year, I believe. Yeah, 32.7% was his best since his freshman year when he played only 18 games. He's shooting 46% from three this year. He was 32% last year. He's now 46%. Obviously, I think we're going to get a little bit of regression. Brooks is also shooting 50% on pretty crazy volume. Obviously, we're going to get a little bit of regression from some of these guys, but this team just is an excellent shooting team. And that was on display in this game. 12 of 22 from three, 54%. You're not going to shoot 54% from three in every game, obviously. This is probably more of an outlier than not, but this is a great shooting team, and they proved that. That's really the main takeaway. I watched someone like the post game stuff, the social media account. By the way, Butler social media, good job. But Thad said something like, "Yeah, we didn't play perfect." It's like, yeah, they didn't. 14 turnovers, and Mississippi State had 69 shot attempts to your 53. They had 16 more shot attempts. Butler had six more free throws, so a little bit there. But turnover battle, you lost by 8. Offensive rebounding battle, you lost by 2. So like nothing like great there, like the turnover battle. It's like you can definitely improve on turnovers, but when you're shooting 54% from three and making 12 threes in a game, Jamil Telford hitting 4, Pierre Brooks hitting 3, you're going to win a lot of games. And one last thing, because I feel like I've been talking for quite a while. Shout out the bench guards in this game. Colby King and Landon Moore were great. You didn't get a great game out of Finley Bizjack, but those two off the bench were excellent. They were just solid. Landon Moore was cutting to the right spots. Colby King had that 2 corner threes, I believe, in the first half. Colby King, great rebounding. Landon Moore was just solid, 6-7 from the line. Bench guards really showed up in this game. It's definitely Landon Moore's best game of the season by a long shot, and definitely one of King's best too.
Yeah, absolutely agree with pretty much everything you said there. I will say, just one little plug is that when we talked to Jack McCaffrey during our interview with him, he said that we asked him, he said, "Hey, would Connor or Patrick win in a one-on-one matchup?" He said Connor. And then later he DMs up, so he's like, "Hey, I gotta change my answer. I just played with Patrick, and he's like, he doesn't miss." And apparently that's all, like Patrick. I don't know if that was maybe some feedback for him, that he just needed to like work on his perimeter shooting, being a 6'9" lanky guy, right? For his like future. But apparently all he did this offseason was work on shooting. So while I don't expect it to obviously be 50%, that's ridiculous. I don't think it would be surprising at all to see him up from his career average if like that's all he worked on all offseason. And I have to assume the same response was for Ja when he was going through his NBA stuff was, "Hey, you're a big body, you can defend, you can dribble, but we need to see some more perimeter shooting from you." And I wouldn't be surprised if that was something he focused solely on this offseason too. So while yeah, I agree that they're going to regress to the means, I wouldn't be surprised if these guys shot above their career averages this year, especially in Barlow's system. And another shout out, Colby King is shooting 50%. He's only shot 16 compared to the other guys, but he already was a shooter. We knew he was going to be a shooter. So yeah, this team can definitely shoot. And if Finley starts to get it going a little bit, he's at 29%. I mean, the sixth in the nation right now in 3-point percentage at 42.7%. So absolutely can shoot. And that was on full display. Kyle, how about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I want to, like, we've talked about Telfort, and so we could, go at length. But I thought that Telfort controlled this basketball game. I don't and yeah, he probably was more important to the Butler team in the Northwestern win, given his points, the ratio of points he scored versus how many points the team scored. But since I was a student, I understand that Kamar and people like Kamar controlled basketball games for Butler. But this game, I don't know, since especially in the Thad Matta era, I don't know if I remember a player controlling a game as much as like he did what he wanted on the court. It felt like Butler got whatever looks Telfort wanted, whether that was for himself or for others, based on his presence on the court. It was just ridiculous. Mississippi State was clearly terrified of him, and I understand why. And it's honestly just such a cool thing to know that when you have two guys going, when you have your two best, when we have Telfort and Brooks going, like, and I mean going, I genuinely think there's like a very few amount of teams in the country that I don't like feel a confident feeling about going into the game. Now, that being said, there's not going to be too many games that both of them are playing like they did in that game. But when they are, it's ridiculous. It's a top 25 win. Like you said, it's going to stay a Q1 win. Couldn't be happier. That game was just the best game we've played, I would say. And everyone contributed. Like you said, Landon Moore. I think Thad really rode the hot hand when it came to guards. Interesting that Colby closed the game at guard because of, I think, mainly for his rebounding, which is funny. But Colby closed the game at guard, and I thought Thad did a great job with rotations, getting Kapke in there for some clutch moments. He hit a really big three. So yeah, I mean, ultimately that's just an unbelievable win that we can really take forward. Not only just winning the tournament and getting like a trophy of some sorts, which is just cool to see, but on top of that, the fact that we beat a team of the caliber of Mississippi State to do it. And they're a good team. They're going to compete in the best league by a lot in the country. And they're going to not be a pushover in that league. And so it's a win that's going to age fantastic because pretty much any win they get in the SEC is just going to help them like crazy in Ken Pom because that league is just ridiculous. So
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm gonna real quick too. I feel like Brooks doesn't get quite enough love sometimes. I mean, we talk about Telford all the time. I wish that Thad, and I'm serious, I wish that he would draw up the first like 5 plays to go to Brooks. Because when Brooks sees the ball go through the net, he's almost unstoppable. Like he won't miss. He's one of those street guys. Like he makes his first few and you could pretty much just kiss it goodbye. He's gonna make the rest of them. But that Northwestern game where he really struggled to kind of get his first shot to fall, like that's where he really does have some of those where he just can't get it to go. So I would love to see him get involved like early. The thing I did love about the Mississippi State game, I got 2 more things I want to say, and then I'll pass it over to Michael again. But I thought that we game planned really well for our size because Pierre, yeah, he made his threes, but dude, he was going to the bucket. Like he was going to the bucket multiple times. And the reason he's doing that is because he had a guy 5'11" on him sometimes. I mean, why would you not go to the bucket in that scenario, right? So I love the way that Pierre is attacking. I hope we continue to see that. And you could see the reason I knew that was the case is because you could tell the difference between Northwestern, where he had 6'7", 6'6" guys on him versus a 5'11" guy. He took advantage of that fully, and I love seeing that. I want to mention one kind of cool story from when I was at the game, because I think one of the big concerns for Butler this year was like who's going to be the leader, like who's going to be that vocal presence. Because when Posh left, it was like, okay, who's the guy? And I think the first couple of games there's a little bit like, yeah, who is the guy? There's kind of stuff everywhere. Really cool. So Colby and Finley both got in foul trouble really early in that game. Both had 2 fouls in the first I don't remember how many minutes, but basically in the first, Colby made 2 threes, and I think he got a second foul. And so they pulled him out of the game, and he was heated. Like he was upset, like very animated on the bench. Like some of the coach were trying to calm him down. During the timeout after that, Ja walks over, grabs him, like pulls him in, and I don't know what he said to him, obviously, but he pulls him in. He says something, and you see Colby kind of like nod his head and like pat him in, and he goes and he was calm after that. I'm telling you, Ja's not the most vocal guy. Like he's not animated, but I think that we have a true alpha. Like, and Pierre's alpha number 2. Like he is, but I think Ja has full control of that locker room, even if it is more of like a calm way versus like a super vocal way. I love seeing that was like one of the. It sounds weird to say, but that was like one of the biggest takeaways when I saw it happen. I was like, yeah, we got a guy who is just like he's in control of this locker room, and that's huge. Like that's huge for us. And I don't know if that was something that came after the Austin Peay game or something like that, but. Very cool to see, and I hope that continues to kind of go forward because we definitely need to make sure we have some leadership on the team. But anything else you guys want to add from that game? Otherwise, we're going to talk about this next major matchup against Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, I want to talk a little more about Ja.
Yeah.
I love that he's kind of like, since the Austin Peay game, I think one adjustment in particular is he's kind of running the offense more. Like they're just giving him the ball more, which is awesome. And I'm going to go as far as to say, in the Big East, we all believe he's the first team All Big East player, at least at this point. Things can change, but like right now. But I'd go as far as to say, on the first team, it'll be Cam Jones, Ryan Kalkbrenner. Why is Ja not the next guy mentioned? Like, genuine question. At this point, Caravan hasn't done much. Eric Dixon's been excellent, but on a team that is 9th, 10th, 11th in the conference, why is Ja genuinely not that next guy? He's awesome.
Agree. 100% agree.
Probably is right now. I think that just pure scoring numbers, I think that if there was just like a vote for Big East Player of the Year, I think that Dixon's scoring numbers are maybe too eye-popping to ignore for a lot of people. It wouldn't be for me. I would honestly take Ja over Kalkbrenner right now. Like just for how he's played this season. I mean, but I think that I think that he would have to really just fall off a cliff to not be as far as in what we know he can do, to not be a first teamer this year.
Yeah, no, he's a special player. Again, I've been around longer than you guys have, and I'm telling you, I haven't had confidence in a guy like that since Kamar. I mean, when Kamar had the ball, I was always like, yep, something good's going to happen. It's Kamar. He'll take care of it, and he always did. And I kind of had that same feeling with Ja, which is nice.
something you said too earlier is that Ja has the chance. Like we have, like we talked about Brooks too. If this team can do something, and like if this team can do something, meaning like make a tourney or make a tourney and win a game, like for the fact that we haven't had the success that Butler was used to in the mid 2010s, in the early 2010s, even into the late 2010s, for the past 5 years, Ja and Pierre have like a chance to like really kind of etch themselves into like kind of legends as far as even only being here 2 years. It's crazy to say, but do they not really have that chance? I think they do.
I mean,
If the
like
program gets back to the heights you want it to, you'll think of probably this year as like a year you really saw momentum like continue to build. So I could see it.
took the words right out of my mouth. I was gonna say it could be like a like basically yeah, remembered as like a year that it was like a switch. Anyway, yeah, no. So again, super exciting for the Dog. They're now 6-1. Still some tough matchups coming up with Houston and Wisconsin. But let's talk about the next one. Michael, I've always leaned to you as the all-around college basketball expert, so I'm sure you have some really good details about good old Eastern Illinois. I'm sure you've examined them from head to toe. So talk to us a little bit about Eastern Illinois. What can the Dogs expect in this Tuesday night matchup against good old Eastern Illinois and Hinkle Fieldhouse?
So I can't lie. I try to consume as much content in the overall college basketball world as I can. I don't pay any attention to the Ohio Valley Conference at this point. Like as soon as Morehead State kind of like took a little bit of like a fall off, I guess, and you lose a couple Murray State and Belmont left this league, it's like this league's just kind of been cooked. But from the little bit I have just naturally consumed of Eastern Illinois, they played Indiana really tough for a half. Then they kind of gave that game away in the second. They took Northwestern to overtime and they played DePaul fairly tough. So they know how to play against these big time teams. They know how to, they're not going to be afraid of the moment at least. And looking at this spot for Butler, it could be kind of a letdown. You're coming off two huge games, and you know what you have looking forward to the game after that? Top five team in the country in Houston. Maybe they won't be top five come Monday, but like they're right. I all think they're in that conversation. Top 10 team, got to go to their place. This could be a look ahead spot. You just kind of look past. This could be a letdown from that angle. Matchup wise, they like to score a lot inside the arc. And Butler's 2-point defense has been very good this year. I don't think this team's a great shooting team. They're shooting 29.9% from three. I have to look at like specific games to be like, okay, maybe whatever matchups, and I haven't watched them play at all. But I don't know. I think they're going to try to score a lot inside the arc. Butler's 2-point defense has been great, particularly in that Northwestern game, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I think Butler should be fine in this spot, but also just from a spot angle. I mean, it's a spot where you could try to overlook a team and it gets greasy late, but I don't know. I don't think Eastern Illinois is very good.
Yeah, I will say that I watched the whole game against DePaul, and I watched the whole game against DePaul. They passed up wide open threes. Like this just team just doesn't like to shoot threes. I don't know. I'd actually be interested, and I'll look it up after the number, just like where they rank in amount of 3-pointers taken per game. It has to be low.
356th in 3-point attempts per field goal attempts rate, which would be like
Well,
bottom 10 in the country.
so there you go. I wasn't wrong. They
And
just
they give up a lot of threes. Sorry to interrupt. They give up a lot of threes too.
Okay, interesting. I will say again, and I watched the DePaul game because I watched the Big East, like every Big East game because I'm crazy. They just passed up open threes. They have this, I don't remember what number he was or his name, but they have this one like probably a guy who's 6'7", 6'8", likes to score the ball inside, kind of crafty, but otherwise, yeah, I mean this team has played some teams tough, but with the momentum Butler has right now, I mean, knowing that we have a smart coaching staff and a coaching staff that knows what they're doing, uh, I'm sure Cooper Jacoby, Michael says, yeah, I thought he was a crafty enough player. However, I just think our coaching staff will understand that this is a letdown spot and really communicate that to the players. I feel confident that they will do that. I feel confident that Butler wants to take the momentum from these games in the desert home before they and then feel really confident going into a really tough matchup um in Houston. So I think that continuing momentum, I think that these players are veteran enough and smart enough to understand that it matters. So, well, I don't think Eastern Illinois is like, I don't think we should just look past them. Frankly, I think we win this game and quite easily. Maybe I'm just being too optimistic, but that's what I think.
I also watched the entire DePaul versus Eastern Illinois game for reasons unknown. I agree. They're a very chaotic team. Like they just seemed like always out of sorts, but somehow the ball would end up like it was just really, really weird. Yeah, the Jacoby guy has a funky looking shot, but he kept making them. But back to Michael's point, my biggest fear of this game is exactly what he's saying, a letdown game. We cannot have a Buffalo experience from last year where we won that game by like 9 and we dropped like 20 points in net after that or something stupid. We can't do it. We can't pull a Xavier today. Like we've already had our one loss to Austin P. Hopefully that's motivation enough. We need to dismantle subpar opponents. So we need to pull Merrimack. We need to kill them. They're not good. So I get that they competed with teams, but they're not good. So you need to destroy them. Go destroy them. That's all I'm going to say on that. So anything else you boys want to add? Otherwise, we'll wrap up this episode. Awesome. All right. So exciting times. Again, Butler plays Eastern Illinois Tuesday in Hinkle. I believe the game is at 6:30. So get to Hinkle and cheer on your dogs. Otherwise, as always, go Dogs, boys.